There's a moment, maybe you've had it too, where you're sitting across from someone, smiling, nodding, laughing even, but inside you're exhausted. Not from the conversation, but from performing, from editing yourself, from wearing a version of you that you hope is lovable, impressive, likable, or at the very least acceptable. That's the armor, and it's heavy. We learn to put on armor young. Maybe it started the first time someone mocked your laugh or told you you were too much. Maybe it was when you were taught that crying made you weak or that silence was safer than saying the wrong thing. So you adjusted, you dimmed, you quieted, you shaped yourself into someone who fit the room. That armor kept you safe until it didn't. Because here's the truth. Armor protects, but it also disconnects. It doesn't just keep out the judgment, it keeps out the connection, the intimacy, the realness. When we show up as a curated version of ourselves, the people around us aren't connecting with us. They're connecting with the costume. And it leaves us feeling unseen, even when we're surrounded. Authenticity isn't about oversharing or spilling your whole story to every stranger at a coffee shop. It's about alignment between who you are inside and how you show up on the outside. It's letting your laugh be weird, your ideas be bold, your boundaries be clear. It's saying, this is me, and letting the chips fall where they may. Not everyone will like it, but the right people will love it. The first time you drop the armor, it feels terrifying, like stepping onto a stage naked. You might fumble, you might want to backpedal, but then something extraordinary happens. People lean in, the conversation deepens, the energy shifts. You'll start noticing how others drop their guard around you too. Your authenticity gives them silent permission to be real too. It's magnetic. I remember the first time I said, I don't know, in a room full of people who expected me to have the answers. My voice trembled, I braced for judgment, but what I got instead was respect, relief. A few people even nodded and said, me neither. That moment taught me something. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's leadership, it's trust, and it changes the way people see you. You don't have to drop every piece of armor at once. Start small, say what you mean instead of what's safe, ask for help, share the story you've been editing, let someone see behind the curtain, and then watch. Watch how people respond differently. Watch how your relationships shift, how the ones rooted in performance fade, and the ones built on truth grow deeper and richer. Being authentic won't make everyone treat you better, but it will help you find the ones who treat you right. And more than anything, it allows you to treat yourself with the dignity, softness, and honesty you've been offering the world. Because there's no version of you more powerful than the one who finally decides, I don't need this armor anymore. We've all been there. Someone asks something of us, and despite our gut telling us that we need to say no, we find ourselves agreeing out of habit, out of fear, or out of the need to avoid the discomfort of disappointing someone. In those moments, we twist ourselves into a version that serves everyone except us. We give away our time, our energy, our peace, all because we can't bring ourselves to say that one simple word, no. But the truth is, learning to say no without apology is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect we can offer ourselves. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. In fact, it makes you a stronger one. We are not here to be everything to everyone. We are here to be fully ourselves, to invest in relationships that nourish us, projects that energize us, and activities that align with our values. Every time we say yes to something out of obligation, we are, in essence, saying no to something that matters more. To our health, to our well-being, to our joy. The truth is, every yes comes at a cost, and if we say yes too often to others, we end up saying no to ourselves. But saying no can feel incredibly uncomfortable. It's not just about the fear of disappointing others. It's about the fear of feeling selfish. We worry that if we set boundaries, we'll be seen as unkind, uncooperative, or even ungrateful. We're told both directly and indirectly that being a good person means giving everything, even when it drains us. But if you think about it, how sustainable is that? If we're constantly running on empty, what do we have left to give to the things that truly matter? The reality is that when you say no without guilt or explanation, you send a message to yourself and to others that your time, energy, and emotional resources are valuable. You're teaching people how to respect your limits, how to honor your needs, and perhaps most importantly, how to see you as someone who is worthy of care and attention. It's a radical act of self-respect. Imagine how different your life would feel if you didn't apologize for setting boundaries. What if instead of qualifying your no with, "I'm so sorry, but," or "I wish I could, but I could," you simply stated it clearly, confidently, and without hesitation? A simple, "I can't do that right now," or "that's not something I'm able to take on," doesn't need to be followed by an excuse. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your priority. Your boundaries are your own. When you begin to say no without apology, you'll notice that the world around you begins to shift. People may be surprised at first, especially if they're used to you bending to meet their needs. But what follows is often something beautiful, a deeper level of respect. People who truly care about you will recognize your boundaries and appreciate the clarity you bring. And for those who can't respect them, that's information too. It shows you who is truly aligned with your values and who is not. It's important to remember that saying no isn't a one-time thing. It's a practice. Sometimes it'll feel uncomfortable. Sometimes you'll feel the pull to please or to fix things. But each time you stand firm in your no, you'll grow stronger, more confident in your own worth. It's a muscle that strengthens with use, and eventually saying no becomes an act of courage and love for yourself and others. You will find that when you honor your own needs, you are better able to show up for the people who matter most. You are not responsible for anyone else's happiness. You are not here to fulfill the endless demands of others at the expense of your own well-being. Saying no without apology is not an act of rejection. It is an act of affirmation. It is you affirming that your life, your energy, your peace, these things matter. And in a world that is constantly asking for more, you have every right to say, "Not right now, not this. Not at the expense of my own happiness." There are moments in life when we stand at the crossroads of honesty and fear. The truth is right there, hanging in the air, heavy and raw, yet we hesitate. We hesitate because speaking the truth, especially when it shakes us, means exposing ourselves in ways that might feel terrifying. We might fear rejection, judgment, or misunderstanding. We might fear that speaking our truth will create distance between us and the people we care about. But the cost of silence, of staying quiet to protect ourselves, is far greater than the vulnerability of letting the truth out. When we hold back our truth, we don't just protect ourselves from the discomfort of that moment, we deny the world a chance to see us fully. We keep people at arm's length, offering them only a version of ourselves that feels safer to share, but isn't really us. And in doing so, we rob ourselves of the chance to connect deeply, to be understood, and to build relationships grounded in reality. Authentic connection is born from vulnerability, and vulnerability is born from truth. When we speak it, even when our voice shakes, we give others permission to do the same. But let's be honest, it's not easy. The first time you speak your truth, truly speak it, your heart will race, your hands might tremble, you might find yourself second-guessing every word. The weight of honesty can be overwhelming. We've all been conditioned to hide, to protect, to play small. We've learned to edit ourselves, to tailor our words for acceptance, to shield others from our discomfort. The fear of causing conflict, of shaking things up, keeps us silent. But the truth doesn't work that way. It needs to be spoken. It craves to be heard. The first time I spoke the truth in a situation where I was deeply afraid, I was terrified. I had been holding in something, a feeling, a truth, for far too long. The moment I let it out, I could feel the weight lifting off my chest. But what surprised me wasn't just the relief I felt, it was the way the people around me responded. I expected shock, anger, maybe even rejection, but instead I felt a deep sense of connection and respect. It was as though by sharing my truth, I created a space for them to share theirs. I realized that the fear of speaking my truth had been much bigger in my head than in reality. There's a profound power in speaking the truth, especially when it shakes. It's not about being harsh or blunt. It's about honoring what's inside you, what's been growing in the quiet corners of your soul. Your truth matters. It deserves to be spoken, not because it's easy, but because it's the most honest way you can show up for yourself and others. When you speak the truth, it feels like stepping into your own skin for the first time, fully, unashamedly. It's a declaration that says, I am enough, just as I am. But what happens when speaking the truth causes discomfort in others? What happens when it shakes up a relationship, a situation, or an expectation? This is the hardest part. We often avoid speaking the truth because we fear the consequences. We worry that someone might be hurt, that will disappoint them, or that the truth will create a divide. The reality is, speaking the truth may cause discomfort, but it doesn't necessarily damage relationships. It clarifies them. If someone can't accept your truth, that's not a reflection of your worth, but of their ability to hold space for vulnerability. Sometimes speaking your truth is the key to unlocking a deeper, more authentic connection. There's a beautiful paradox in this. By speaking the truth, we learn to trust ourselves. The more we speak our truth, even when it shakes, the more we honor ourselves. And paradoxically, that's when we begin to trust others more too. People will show up for you in ways you didn't expect when you offer them your authentic self. When we hide our truth, we hide our potential for real, meaningful connection. But when we let the truth flow freely, even through trembling lips, we open doors that lead to deeper understanding and compassion. And let's be real, speaking the truth doesn't always result in instant peace. Sometimes speaking your truth brings up old wounds, triggers defensiveness, or creates discomfort. But it is always the right thing to do. Truth is healing, even when it hurts. Every time we speak our truth, we move closer to emotional freedom, to a life that isn't defined by fear or silence. Speaking the truth, even when it shakes, is the ultimate act of courage. Not because it's easy, but because it affirms that you trust yourself enough to let the world see you fully. So next time you're standing on the precipice of truth, ready to speak but afraid of the shaking, remember this: your truth is sacred. It's yours to tell, and it's worthy of being heard. Let it come even if it trembles, because the world doesn't need more perfected versions of people. It needs the raw, imperfect, beautiful truths that only you can offer. Speak it even when it shakes. Speak it because it matters. There's a quiet fear that many of us carry with us, the fear that we don't quite belong. It shows up when we enter a room full of strangers, when we step into a new job, or even when we're in a gathering of friends. We ask ourselves, do I have the right to be here? Will they see me as an imposter? Am I enough? The truth is that fear isn't just a passing doubt. It's a story we tell ourselves, a narrative that convinces us that somehow we're out of place. But what if you chose to walk into the room as though you already belonged? What if, instead of questioning your worth, you stood tall and owned your space? The first step in walking into the room like you belong is recognizing that you do. You are enough, just as you are. There is no magic formula, no secret handshake, no exclusive club that you have to prove your worth to. The simple truth is that your existence is your proof. You belong because you bring something to the table that no one else can. your unique perspective, your experiences, your story. There's no need to shrink yourself or apologize for taking up space. You have every right to be in the room. And the moment you internalize that truth, your entire energy shifts. It's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others. We look around the room and wonder if we measure up to the people we see. We think, I'm not as accomplished as they are, or they're more confident than I am. But comparison steals joy, and it also robs us of the power of our own presence. When we walk into a room with the mindset that we belong, we are saying to ourselves, I don't need to be anyone else but me. I have my own unique value to offer. And that's when we start radiating a quiet, magnetic confidence that has nothing to do with proving ourselves and everything to do with simply being who we are. There will always be people who seem more confident, more charismatic, or more successful than you. That's a fact of life. But the key to walking into any room like you belong is not about being the loudest or the most outgoing. It's about owning the space you take up. That means walking in with your head held high, shoulders back, and heart open, fully present in the moment. It means embracing the truth that you don't need to shrink or hide in order to make others comfortable. You are worthy of being in that room, and the sooner you accept that, the more effortless it becomes to show up confidently. Walking into a room like you belong also means dropping the habit of apologizing for your presence. We've all been guilty of it. Starting a conversation with, I'm sorry to interrupt, or minimizing our ideas with, this might not be important, but these little acts of self-doubt are a subtle way of denying our own worth. If you're taking up space, take it boldly. You don't need to apologize for sharing your thoughts, for voicing your needs, or for taking your seat at the table. Your voice matters, your perspective matters, and you deserve to be heard. This kind of presence is powerful. When you walk into the room like you belong, you invite others to do the same. People notice when you hold your ground with quiet assurance, and often they will follow suit. You set the tone not just for how others see you, but for how they see themselves. When you show up authentically and confidently, you give others permission to do the same. Your belief in your own worth is a silent invitation for others to embrace theirs. And that kind of energy creates a ripple effect, a room full of people who are all fully showing up as themselves with no apologies, no shrinking, no holding back. But let's be clear, walking into a room like you belong isn't about arrogance. It's about self-trust. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not or trying to be perfect. It's about knowing that you, with all your flaws, your imperfections, and your quirks, are exactly who you're meant to be. It's about owning the fact that you bring value, not because you've done something grandiose, but simply because you are. The value you add to the room doesn't come from trying to fit a mold or to prove your worth. It comes from being unapologetically yourself. The more you practice this, the more natural it will become. The first few times you walk into a room with this mindset, it might feel awkward. You might still feel the familiar pang of insecurity. But over time, you'll realize that the room doesn't need to accept you. You're already accepting yourself. And that's what changes everything. You no longer need to seek validation from others because you've already given it to yourself. This isn't about arrogance, it's about self-respect. When you walk into a room like you belong, you show the world that you are someone who deserves to be here just as much as anyone else. So next time you walk into a room, take a deep breath and remind yourself, you belong. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. You have as much right to be there as anyone else. Walk in with your head held high, your shoulders back, and your heart open. Take up space, own the room, because you were meant to be in it. And when you do this, not only will the world start seeing you differently, you'll start seeing yourself differently too. Because the truth is, you were never meant to hide. You were meant to stand tall, speak up, and walk into every room like you belong, because you do. We live in a world that moves fast, where first impressions are made in an instant and opinions are often formed before a person even speaks. It's easy to slip into judgment, to make assumptions about someone based on their appearance, their choices, or a few snippets of conversation. We're conditioned to quickly categorize and label, often without realizing the deep impact that our judgments have on our relationships and on our understanding of the world. But what if we chose to pause just for a moment and replaced judgment with curiosity? What would happen if we asked more questions, sought deeper understanding, and approached others with an open mind rather than a closed one? Curiosity is a powerful force. It shifts our perspective from one of certainty and finality to one of openness and possibility. When we choose curiosity, we stop assuming we have all the answers, and instead we embrace the unknown. We invite complexity into the conversation rather than seeking simplicity. By asking questions, we create room for dialogue, growth, and connection. Judging, on the other hand, often shuts down communication. It places barriers between us and others, creating an us versus them mentality, a division that serves no one. But curiosity invites collaboration, shared experiences, and empathy. Think about the last time you made a snap judgment about someone. Perhaps it was based on how they dressed, how they spoke, or even how they behaved in a particular situation. How many times have we judged someone for being too quiet or too loud, for too much or not enough? But when we make judgments, we see the person through a narrow lens. We miss the richness of their story, the depth of their experiences. We forget that everyone we encounter is carrying a lifetime of experiences, struggles, triumphs, and lessons that we can never fully know in a single interaction. Choosing curiosity over judgment is about peeling back that surface and discovering what lies beneath. When we choose curiosity, we give ourselves permission to ask deeper questions. Instead of making assumptions about why someone is acting the way they are, we ask, what's going on for them? What might they be feeling? What experiences have shaped their perspective? It's not about excusing behavior, but about seeking understanding. We open up a pathway for empathy. We recognize that we don't have the full picture and that the person in front of us has a story to tell, a story that may reveal more about their actions than we could ever guess on our own. This approach doesn't just apply to others. It's equally important when we turn our gaze inward. How often do we judge ourselves for making mistakes, for falling short of our own expectations, or for not being enough in some way? When we choose curiosity over judgment within ourselves, we begin to see our struggles as opportunities for growth rather than flaws to hide or suppress. We ask ourselves, why did I act that way? What is the root of this behavior? What can I learn from this? Curiosity toward our own inner workings opens the door to self-compassion and self-awareness. It helps us understand our patterns, our triggers, and our emotions in a way that judgment never could. One of the most transformative aspects of choosing curiosity over judgment is the way it deepens our relationships. When we stop rushing to judge others, we begin to listen more intently. We engage in conversations not with the intent to correct or offer advice, but with the goal of truly understanding the other person. We create a space where people feel seen, heard, and valued, and that's when real connection happens. People will open up to you more when they feel your genuine interest in who they are, not just what they do or say. Curiosity fosters trust. It shows others that we're not trying to label them or pigeonhole them into a category. Instead, we're saying, I'm here to understand you as you are. Moreover, choosing curiosity over judgment helps us become more adaptable and less entrenched in our own biases. We all have biases, many of which are unconscious, but by asking questions and seeking out new perspectives, we challenge our assumptions and expand our worldview. We start to see the complexity in others and in ourselves, moving away from the simplicity of right and wrong, good and bad. We begin to embrace the gray areas, the nuances, and the contradictions that make human beings so wonderfully unique. We learn that the world is far more complex than we initially thought, and we become more open to discovering new possibilities. It's also important to recognize that choosing curiosity over judgment doesn't mean we turn a blind eye to harmful behaviors or toxic situations. Curiosity is not an excuse for ignoring boundaries or tolerating mistreatment. Instead, it's about choosing to engage with empathy and seeking to understand the underlying reasons behind those behaviors, while also standing firm in our values and standards. Yeah, we don't have to accept everything, but we can always choose to approach things with openness. In doing so, we gain clarity and insight that judgment would never offer. We make more informed decisions and approach conflict with a mindset of resolution rather than defensiveness. Finally, we must remember that this shift from judgment to curiosity is a practice. It's not always easy, and it's not always our first instinct, but the more we choose curiosity, the more natural it becomes. The more we listen, question, and seek understanding, the more we grow in compassion for others and ourselves. It is a conscious choice. Every time we're faced with the urge to judge, we have the opportunity to choose curiosity instead. And with each choice, we create a little more connection, a little more kindness, and a little more peace in the world.